We're so used to the things our body does to keep us alive each day that we barely ever think about the mechanisms of sleeping, talking, breathing, or even blinking. But what would happen to your body if you stopped doing each of these things all of a sudden? How long would it be before it became a problem? Not that I've ever considered taking some sort of vow of silence, but I do sometimes wonder what would happen if I just stopped talking altogether. Would I lose my voice forever at one point? Let's look at what specialists at Columbia University have to say. First of all, our vocal cords are muscles, so they do need a workout every now and then to stay in shape. If you stop speaking, these muscles would start to get weaker after a while. As a result, your voice would become quieter, and its pitch would get higher. Even worse, this might make it sound hollow, and basically, it would be harder for you to speak overall. In a way, it's one of those situations where if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, kind of. Luckily, breathing and eating would enter into the equation here. These processes would keep your muscles in some shape. Plus, no matter how long you kept silent, it wouldn't do any permanent damage. And once you started using your vocal cords again, your voice would be back. We all know what might happen if we stopped washing. We'd smell. But let's look at it from a scientific point of view. How about an experiment where a person stopped showering for a whole year? Depending on its type, a person's skin would initially become either extremely oily or very dry. The oiliest parts of their body, like behind the ears and the neck, would collect dust and pollutants and even change color. As for their head, it would get very itchy because of all that skin buildup. And after such a long time of not having a proper cleaning routine, it could take weeks to get the skin back to normal. It may sound like a vacation of sorts, but let's look at what would happen if you never got out of bed. One of the first organs to feel the change would be our lungs. Without gravity to pull them down into their standard position, their lower part would crease. But coughing every now and then would help to reduce this effect. Going further, you'd start to lose about 1% of your bone density with each passing week. This would make your bones more fragile. By the way, it's also the reason why astronauts, who can go for months without experiencing gravity, need to move around for at least 2 hours a day and make sure they have enough calcium in their diet. That same 1% would also apply to your muscle mass. You'd first start to see the effects of this lack of movement in your thighs and shoulders. The unused sugars that previously went to the muscles would start to build up in the blood system after about 10 days. After a whole month in bed, your heart would end up pumping 30% less blood with each beat. There would be less oxygen in your body, and you'd feel even more tired, which sounds kind of surprising. After all, you'd spend the entire month in bed. What would happen if you held your breath for too long? Let's have a look at the timeline. Firstly, the oxygen levels in your brain would decrease, followed by a higher level of carbon dioxide. Usually your body gets rid of this gas pretty fast when you breathe out. After about 60 seconds, the cells in your body would start to behave differently than they normally do. All body parts would be affected by the sudden change. Your heart would start to beat irregularly. If you didn't begin to breathe even at this point, you'd most likely end up fainting. Similar to so many other mammals, we humans have a diving response. This is a built-in automated mechanism that you come equipped with. It makes sure that your brain always has enough oxygen, even in an emergency situation. This diving response starts working extra hard every time your face ends up in the water, but it can happen on dry land as well. Its main aim is to make sure your brain continues functioning, no matter the cost. So, it orders your body to redirect all the blood from non-essential body parts, like legs or arms, to the brain. Now, what would happen if you stopped blinking? Or if you didn't blink frequently enough? Firstly, your corneas would likely increase in size. The cornea is the only part of your body that doesn't have a blood supply. but it still needs oxygen to function properly, and it gets it straight from the air. By the way, that's the reason why your cornea swells up, just a bit, when you sleep, but it goes back to normal in the morning. Then, your eyes would probably start to dry out because the tear film wouldn't get restored. What does this mean? Mostly some pain and blurry vision. Blinking also helps with removing all dirt and dust from your eyes. And if you stop moving your eyelids, things would most likely get stuck in your eyes and cause serious damage. We take chewing for granted, don't you think so? But come to think of it, it's the first stage of digestion. Chewing helps your stomach to process the food you eat more easily by breaking it into smaller parts. Chewing less, or not at all, should you ever resort to a full liquid diet, might cause harm not only to your digestive system, but, surprisingly, to your jaw muscles as well. Without regular chewing movements, your facial features would change pretty soon. Chewing also lets your stomach know when it's time to increase its acidity so it can process food better. Your senses are a huge part of your day-to-day lives, and here's a neat trick that the human brain can do. When one sense is lost or damaged, another can become much more heightened. People with bad eyesight may be able to hear better, while those who have problems with their hearing might have some sort of enhanced vision. Recent research has shown that the brain can actually remodel itself, giving more power to other senses when one is damaged or missing. They notice this in microscopic roundworms. They have a peculiar behavior when they have a poor sense of touch. Then, their sense of smell becomes super sensitive, and they manage to seek out food sources with a very faint scent. Similarly, some visually impaired people have something in common with bats. Such people basically learn to use their boosted hearing to navigate the world more efficiently. They make a series of rapid clicking noises. This is just how bats use their built-in sonar to find their way when there's no light. Your brain is home to 86 billion neurons. It shouldn't come as a surprise that it also has some sort of a backup plan when some of its parts fail, right? But then there's another question. Why aren't our senses heightened from the very beginning? I mean, we're obviously born with this capability, so why don't we just activate it by default? The explanation is a bit complex. Mostly, it all comes down to your body's inability to work really hard for extended periods of time. To be more precise, your body is always looking to obtain and maintain a certain balance in order to function properly. When one sense is deprived, another needs to be sharper. More so, all these changes in our senses, depending on the circumstances, appear to be reversible. This yet again illustrates the human body's need to function in harmony. It's a lovely day for a boat ride in the swamp. If not for these mosquitoes, then today would be perfect. But for some reason, the mosquitoes keep getting bigger the further you go into the swamp. They started out as tiny, almost invisible insects, and can now be the size of your thumb. You can hear their buzzing as they whiz past you. You go deeper to investigate why they're so big. Eventually, you see a large cluster of mosquitoes the size of your hand buzzing around. They notice you and start flying toward you. You grab a branch and start swatting them away. You run back to your boat and try to escape, but they follow you, and some manage to land on you. You swat them away, but more mosquitoes pop out of nowhere, the size of a basketball. You start your boat and speed your way back to the mainland. As you arrive, you see everyone running away in a frenzy, panicking because of the giant mosquitoes. Some of them are as big as a large dog. People are ducking under picnic tables, while some are running back to their cars and driving away. You get off the boat and run toward the closest grocery store, along with dozens of people. The employees lock up the gates, but the large glass panels show the mosquitoes multiplying. They're getting bigger and bigger until you can see one as big as a car zipping by. It's so strong that it landed on an empty car and crushed it. Everyone inside is ducking away out of fear. You try to calm everyone down and not make any noise. The mosquitoes are landing on the glass panel, blocking out the natural light. It's getting dark inside. Someone turns up the volume on the TV to the breaking news. Mosquitoes are flying rampant all across the continent, destroying natural resources and infiltrating cities. People are advised to stay indoors until further notice. The mosquitoes notice that there are people in the store, so they try to get in by force. A car-sized mosquito flies around in the sky, unaware of what's happening below. Everyone hears some noise coming from the back room. The employees realize they didn't lock the doors. A large mosquito enters and knocks down everything. Everyone runs around in a panic while throwing random stuff at it. Some people grab a fire extinguisher and spray it until it flies to the back room. Some employees lock the door and barricade it so that nothing can enter. Everyone waits nervously. The TV broadcasts some live coverage of how giant mosquitoes are flying everywhere. A helicopter is forced to land because the mosquitoes are flying around wildly in the skies. Everyone shudders when they hear the sound of more mosquitoes buzzing around near the back door. Hours pass, and more mosquitoes keep coming endlessly. There are no people outside, and much of the urban and landscape design in the park is destroyed or overrun by giant insects. Some people eat whatever is available, while some are sleeping. A piece of breaking news interrupts the live coverage and shows that there will be armored buses ready to pick up people near the picnic site. However, the buses won't drive to hotspots since it'll be too dangerous. The only way to get on them is by being on the highway in 2 hours. Everyone tries to call their loved ones, but the cell towers have been knocked down, and no one can call anyone. The mosquito that broke in a while ago destroyed the only landline that was present. People are arguing about whether they should stay or go. More insects covered the only clear patches of the sky until the sun disappears. The people split into 2 parties, those who are leaving to catch the bus and those who want to stay. The employees know a back way that can quickly lead to the highway. The only problem is that it'll take around 20 minutes on foot, and there are no cars to use. The way is tricky. First, they would need to escape through the main entrance and head through the bushy forest behind the dumpsters. Over there, they can enter a building, possibly through the sewers, which will lead to the lake next to the highway. The first party decides to leave. They prepare supplies for the breakout. Every second, more mosquitoes arrive, covering the sky. They gear up with anything they can find to protect themselves. Mosquitoes are attracted to the carbon dioxide that people breathe out, and they know that there's a source coming from the grocery store. Once everyone is ready, they get some makeshift torches and light them up. They add some barbecue fuel to keep the fire going. You're part of the party that is planning to escape. The doors open, and everyone makes a break for it behind the dumpster. Many mosquitoes try to attack you, but the smoke from the fire repels them. Every second, more mosquitoes are filling the sky and the environment. Many people end up running back into the store since they couldn't make it past the dumpster to the other building. Eventually, the rest of the people, including yourself, run toward the building. But it's locked, and no one can break down the door. Plan B is to break the glass from a window and crawl inside. You grab a rock and smash the closest window. The only problem is that the mosquitoes can follow you inside. So without any options left, you pull through and run to the basement of the building to find the entrance to the sewer. Success! You found it, and everyone descends to the bottom. No mosquitoes in sight, just rats. You're walking knee-high in sewer water with it flowing past you, but it's only a few minutes until you reach the river. Another problem is that the sewer isn't going to the lake, but somewhere deep into the sewer channels. You follow it until you see what looks like an outlet. You make it out and are near a water hole where all the discarded sewage leads next to the swamp. The only problem is that you're not next to the highway anymore, and time is running out. More mosquitoes are swarming the air, but they don't bother buzzing next to you. You notice some cat-sized creatures floating on the water. These are baby mosquitoes, or the larvae, and they're coming your way. You and everyone else swim for your lives to the shore. The giant alpha mosquito soars into the air and swoops down to try and grab someone, but it misses. Everyone makes it to the thick, swampy area where no giant mosquitoes can enter. Everyone covers themselves with branches to protect themselves. 15 minutes until the armored bus arrives. Since the mosquitoes can't enter, this will be the best place to hide until then. Darkness falls, and still no bus. It's been 3 hours, and nothing. The mosquitoes are still buzzing around, and everyone is getting uncomfortable under the thick bushes. After a while, everyone hears a roaring engine and sees lights flashing on the highway. Everyone gets up and runs to the bus, but you stop them to not draw the mosquitoes' attention. You volunteer to sneak out and stop the bus, and then everyone else can follow without drawing too much attention. You move a couple of branches, step over some tree bark, and crawl to the highway. You try to hold your breath so that you won't make any heavy breathing sounds. You reach the side of the road and wave your arms to stop the bus. It pulls over and the door opens. You signal the rest of the people to follow, and they follow your lead. Everyone is inside and safe. Some mosquitoes notice and start pecking on the bus, but the armor is sturdy. The bus drives off, looking for other people along the road. And suddenly, a Goliath lands in front of you. The bus stops and sees a mosquito the size of a Boeing 747. It looks straight at you. It gets ready to attack, but the bus speeds under its legs and drives off. The mosquito takes off and tries to catch the bus, but you enter a tunnel to the other side of the mountain. After a few minutes, you reach an open area with no trees or buildings. The bus is speeding while dodging obstacles along the way. Finally, you notice you are near the grocery store where you were held up. The bus opens the door for everyone inside to be taken to a safe zone. You hear from the aid workers that the whole world is being overrun by these giant creatures. As you drive along, you see a hybrid mosquito that has 2 heads and a scorpion's tail. It's as tall as the Statue of Liberty, and it's ready to attack. Whatever is causing these mosquitoes to grow abnormally is also making them into hybrids and mutants. And you thought it was going to be a good Monday. You've finally done it! You've created a simulator that allows you to copy yourself into the apps on your phone to learn faster. You plug your phone in, open Google, and put on a helmet with goggles to get a 360-degree view. After hooking them up, you call your sister to activate the machine. She's not answering you, so you head to her bedroom where you see her doing a TikTok dance challenge. You tease her for it and pester her to activate the machine downstairs. She follows you while still using TikTok. She gets upset and, without you looking, changes the home page on your phone to TikTok. She then activates the machine. You're in the simulation, but something's wrong. You're going through a virtual wormhole. You see all kinds of apps circling you until you land flat on your face on a dark surface. You're scared. Your heart is thumping. You look around and see yourself in a room with a screen in front of you. It asks for your username. You shout all kinds of words, asking to let you out, but a red light blinks every time you do so. Every word you say is picked up by the screen, which then displays it as your username, while asking you to accept it to proceed. You say accept, and the wall opens. Your username is, "Let me out!" You exit and enter a futuristic city glittered with purple and blue lights, and tall towers with screens showing TikTok videos non-stop. The tallest tower shows the most trending videos today.
We'd like to continue helping you learn and giving you useful skill improvement tips. Got a thirst for knowledge? We've prepared 4 masterclasses on creating a 2D character animation from scratch, 10 hours of video lessons, practical tasks using professional software, and additional materials that you can use with your own projects.
While the other towers show other popular videos. You follow the road in front of you. It leads you into a crowd in the middle of a virtual Times Square. Everyone has a floating bubble above them with their username and bio written there. It also shows how many followers they have. Most of these people have just a handful of followers. They look like their profile pictures. Everyone is staring at you, since you're the only one who looks not like an avatar, but like a real human. You see 2 people standing opposite each other without moving. You see the bubbles above each of them change. They are now following each other. Suddenly, everyone stops and stares at the girl as she becomes verified. A blue tick appears in her bubble, and she vanishes. You run up to the one who has just followed her and try to get some information, You're the only one talking out loud, while everyone else is communicating through direct messages in their inboxes. You realize that you have to stand still and wait for someone to accept your DM. The person you're talking to receives your message and blocks it. You try to initiate another dialogue, but the person freezes and then walks away. You realize some people are looking at you in a peculiar way. They start following you. They're everywhere. You start walking fast and disappear into a sea of people where they can't find you. After a while, you dip into an alley and find an underground cafe. You enter and see a bunch of people sitting around doing nothing. You try to talk to some of them, but they don't answer. Even weirder, they don't have faces. None of them have followers. They don't respond to anything. And if you try to communicate with them, they just spaz out some advertisements. You look at the screen in the room. It shows your face. TikTok is after you. You hear a knock on the door, and dozens of people rush in. They're the internal security of TikTok, and they're after you. You exit through another room. Now you're inside a building where many of these bots are living. They're behind you and getting closer. You reach a dead end with a window in front of you. You turn around and see the security running straight at you. You have no choice but to jump out of the window. You get a running start and sprint through the glass. You land on the roof of a neighboring building. Every tower is now displaying your username and profile pic as wanted. You have no idea why they're after you. You make your way to another alley and hide in a dark corner. It seems you've lost them. You check your settings to see why you're the most wanted man on TikTok. It shows that you're an invalid user. The app thinks you're a glitch that's going to destroy the very fabric of TikTok. You know for a fact that it's just the cybersecurity of TikTok working to catch any bugs or attacks. You open your settings, but you can't do anything since they blocked you. You open Search and type in your sister's name. It turns out she's verified with a blue tick, which will be difficult to track. You head back out and try to search for her. You hear some people walking around and quickly leave the alleyway. You get back to the crowd. You can't act hysterically anymore, or you'll draw attention to yourself. You reach #Avenue, where all the trending videos are. So far, no one has noticed you. The most popular hashtags are at the top. It's quite a walk to get there. You browse through most of them, but can't find your sister. Then you remember that she was dancing. So you check the #dance and try to locate her. You find out that the video she was doing earlier is one of the most popular videos. You finally find her, but the security stops you and chases you along #Avenue. You randomly appear in various trending videos. You reach a dead end and the security catches you. They escort you to a room where they try to get information out of you. They think you're a bot, but you keep telling them that you invented the machine to copy yourself into TikTok virtually. They're not buying it. Eventually, they try to extract you, but it's not working. They try to figure out what to do, but they don't let you leave. While they're transporting you to another facility, you manage to slip out of their sight and sneak off to search for your sister. This time, you have to be on high alert. TikTok is searching for you. Users have seen you in hashtags, so they're also on the lookout. Out of nowhere, large cameras pop out. They're trying to spot you. Any slip up, and you could be stuck in TikTok for good. You make one last attempt to get to your sister. You find a hat and a jacket to disguise yourself. Now it's impossible for you to interact with anyone, since they can detect your activity. But you have to take this chance for her to get you out. Eventually, you go back to #Avenue and head to your sister. You find some of the most popular TikTokers chilling together. Your sister is among them. There's a lot of security, so you keep it low. After a while, you slowly approach her and take her aside. You activate the chat option and ask her to head downstairs to the basement and unplug you from the system. But before you can finish the last few words, the security guards rush over to you and start chasing you. But this time, all cameras are on you, and there's no place to go. You surrender yourself to the security, and they take you to a locked room you can't escape from. You sit there worried. You're bouncing your knees and rubbing your palms together. You have no idea if your sister has received the full message or not. Hours pass, and no word from outside. You may have blown it. But suddenly, you get a notification from your sister. You try to type, but nothing is working. You start feeling funny. Everything around is shaking. The walls start glitching, and you see the real world. You get pulled into a wormhole, and you wake up in your lab. You're breathing heavily, trying to piece the recent events together. You feel like you've been in TikTok for half a day, but apparently it was less than half an hour. Your vision is clear, and the first thing you see is your sister filming you with her phone. She's grinning from ear to ear, not knowing what you've actually gone through. The first thing you feel is some heaviness around your body, as if you're sleeping under a soft but weighted blanket. It feels nice, and you're too lazy to do anything. Fortunately, you gather enough strength to move the blanket. You open your eyes, and it's weird. You're surrounded by some blue glow. You want to rub your eyes and discover that you have tentacles instead of hands. How about skipping the part where you're terrified and can't believe you've turned into the Kraken? After a couple of days of existential horror, panic, and total madness, you finally calm down. Now, let's figure out what it's like to be the most terrifying ocean monster. So, that heavy blanket is water pressure. It's colossal at the depth where you're hiding. Few living beings can withstand it. Take a passenger car down there, and it will burst apart under the heavy weight of the water. But you're the Kraken. You're more powerful than any car. Your body doesn't collapse in such conditions. Your thick, elastic skin can withstand any pressure, and strong muscles allow you to move freely here. And here's the thing with the blue glow. You're so deep down that sunlight almost doesn't penetrate here. It's hard to tell where's up and down because of the water pressure. But fortunately, you have huge eyes that, like the lenses of a telescope, catch the light coming from the surface. An ordinary person can't see anything except darkness at this depth. But you have something like a night vision device built into your eyes, so you see this blue glow. There's almost nothing at this depth. It's only endless, heavy emptiness. You can see a few fish and several wrecks of sunken ships. The sea creatures you meet here are pretty unusual. These are anglers and all sorts of transparent squid. Come to think of it, giant squid are your only friends here, and you're like a king to them. In general, hanging out close to the ocean floor is pretty boring. You sleep and eat, that's all. It would be best if you swam higher to get more snacks. You rise, and the water around you becomes brighter. More and more sunlight reaches this place, and you finally meet other inhabitants of the ocean. Turtles, sharks, jellyfish, octopuses, and stingrays dart away as soon as they notice you. All of them except jellyfish. They don't care. You look for a place to eat and notice a shoal of fish. Great, here's lunch. After you've eaten, you stay there, scaring fish and dolphins just for fun. You like the way you can control your tentacles. You have 10 of them. It's impossible to put into words what you feel, but imagine that the fingers on your hands have become huge, like pool cues. And it's incredible. You can extend your tentacles to be as long as a passenger Boeing. Also, you have suction cups on them. You can grab anything so tightly that no creature will slip away from you. Thanks to the tentacles, you swim fast. First, you move them in different directions, then press them together, propelling yourself forward. Strong streams of water that you create push all the fish aside. You notice a blue whale. It's the largest mammal in the world. But next to you, it looks like a puppy. So, you swim, eat, scare fish and other marine creatures, and that's it. Your life is kind of boring. And how long will it last? 100 years? 1,000? You want to have some fun. So you swim up to the surface and get almost blinded by bright sunlight. You try to get used to it. The water is quiet. There's no wind. You look around and notice a tiny dot ahead. Wow, it's a large wooden fishing ship with sails. Finally, you'll have some fun. You can't wait to see people and tell them about yourself. So you're happily swimming toward it. But if someone was watching you, you'd probably look pretty scary. You get stuck in a fishing net. It's thin, so you easily tear it apart and rise to the surface. The people on the deck are terrified. They scream and run in different directions. Hey guys, where are you going? I just want to hang out with you. They seem so small. Fishers throw harpoons and axes at you, but you don't feel any pain. You put one tentacle on the wooden deck and accidentally break it. The whole ship is fragile, like a matchbox. Okay, it's better not to touch it. You turn around and accidentally flip the ship over. All the people that were on board are now in the water. Fortunately, you have enough tentacles to save them all. You catch every fisher and see the horror in their eyes. Someone even faints. You put the ship back on the water and help the people return to the deck. Then you push the boat away and swim toward land. But you decide not to show yourself to people on the shore. Those sailors you saved will tell everyone how they survived meeting a giant monster. Everyone will talk about how terrible you are, but no one will mention that you also saved them. How unfair. You return to the ocean depths and fall asleep. Some strange sounds wake you up. It's like water dripping from a tap into a sink. You open your eyes and see faint flashes around. Oh, well, that's interesting. You swim up and realize that a thunderstorm has woken you up. It seems rather severe. The sky is black and the waves are huge. You notice a big vessel sailing amongst this chaos. This ship is different from the one you've seen before. It's made of iron and it has no sails because it's a modern cargo ship. It seems that you've been asleep for a couple of 100 years. The people on board notice you and fire a signal flare. A bright red light blinds you. You spread your tentacles and accidentally push the ship. It's heavy and doesn't flip over. It seems that technology was developing while you were sleeping. The storm is getting stronger. The ship is rolling from side to side. You try to hold it with your tentacles, but it scares the people on board. They scream, and you understand their reaction. A colossal monster has come out of the black depths and grabbed their ship. It's unpleasant to see that they're afraid of you, so you decide to swim away. Offended, you're hiding close to the ocean floor. It turns out it's not much fun being the Kraken. You can only hang out with fish, but they can't talk. People are afraid of you, and you don't want to make them uncomfortable. You feel so alone in this world. You eat your lunch and go back to sleep. Hey, Mr. Kraken, can you hear me? A voice says. You wake up and shudder, terrified. Who said that? Were all the stories about the Flying Dutchman true? Have you just heard some phantom speaking to you? I understand you're confused, Mr. Kraken, so swim up to the surface and you'll find out everything. A few minutes later, you come out of the water and see a huge flying ship. It's floating right above the water. But the most fantastic thing is that people on the deck are not afraid of you. They look at you with interest, and even with some sympathy. You notice a man in a strange helmet among them. Hi, it's me talking to you, thanks to this telepathy device. You can think about anything too, and I'll hear you. It's the 24th century. People have invented technologies for communicating with animals and fish. They found out that almost all creatures have no thoughts and live following their instincts. But then, people detected some brain activity coming from the ocean depths. They discovered you. You seem to be one of the most intelligent beings on the planet, and people are very interested in communicating with you. Finally, the centuries of your loneliness are over.
The food on the tables in the cruise ship's dining room seems freshly made. It looks like everyone just picked up and left. You panic and run outside to the main deck. There are plenty of slippers and sandals lying around, but no people around. You bend over the railing and see that the cruise ship is still moving. There's not a single staff member in sight. Your first guess is that they've all gathered somewhere for some reason, so you make your way to the captain. You walk through the long and maze-like corridors before you reach the control room. The door is wide open and someone has set the ship to cruise control. Some scenarios play out in your head. Scenario number 1 is that while you were asleep, everyone else woke up and decided to pull a prank on you, so they must be hiding somewhere on the ship. When you freak out because no one is around,